My dear God's beloved people, we are on the 16th Ordinary Sunday. Last Sunday, we reflected upon the parable of the sower. This Sunday, Jesus presents 3 more parables. First, the parable of the weeds among the wheat. Second, the parable of the mustard seed, followed by the parable of the leaven or the parable of the yeast. These 3 parables are the parables of growth. In the parable of the mustard seed, we see the capacity of the seed to grow outwards. Example of this is the church, the beginning of our church. In the beginning, it was very small, but now spread all over the world. So, external growth. The parable of the yeast or the parable of the leaven points to the inward growth. Silently, invisibly, it works within. Like the Holy Spirit in a person works within and makes that person powerful. Example would be again of our church. In India, Christianity is a minority, but it can have great impact because the Spirit of God within is working powerfully. I shall be focusing today more on the first parable, the parable of the weeds among the wheat. Well, we are told that the farmer sowed good seeds in his field. But as the growth began, there appeared also weeds, and the servants were much perplexed and disturbed. So they went and asked the farmer, their master, to give them the permission to pull out the weeds. Now this sounds very normal to all of us, and we would say they were right in asking the master to go and pull out the weeds, because the wheat actually should get all the nourishment, not the weeds. So taking out the weeds would mean all nourishment would go to the good plant or the good grass, the wheat. But the master refused. Why did he refuse? Here we see the wisdom of the farmer. Well, the point of this parable is the ultimate judgment, the final judgment where the good ones will be separated from the bad ones. The suggestion of the servants could not be simply exercised because the weed that we are speaking about is not a simple kind of weed, easily distinguishable. No, it is a special kind of weed called the bearded darnel. It is called as Lolium temulentum, which belongs to the special group of weed like grass. Their structure and the conditions of growth are almost the same. Therefore, they could not be distinguished from the good ones. If the master had to ask the servants to go and weed out the darnel, they could also by mistake pull out the good ones. And secondly, the roots of these 2 plants or of these grasses entangle so that pulling one would mean the pulling out of the other. So, pulling up of the weed would mean the destruction of the wheat. And therefore, the master asked them to wait till they could distinguish both of them. It is only when the fruit or the grain is formed that the impostor or the darnel could be recognized by its smaller and darker ear. So, the master's advised for the servants was apt. It shows his wisdom. He allowed both to grow together till the end, that is, till the harvest time, where they would be easily distinguished and separated. And finally, one would be taken for destruction, other for redemption. So, my dear God's people, what is this parable teaching us? 5 things. First, the parable explains the existence of evil in this world and declares that it is not from God. Secondly, there are good as well as bad people in this world. Third, every individual could also have a deceptive self, a deceptive quality which is bad. The people having this kind of bad quality are like the wolves in sheep's clothing. Fourth, it points to God's perfect goodness and His desire to save everyone. Therefore, He remains patient till the end, expecting that the bad ones would improve. And finally, it assures the full and final victory of the good over evil. So, my dear God's people, this Sunday just reflect and see if you are the wheat or the darnel. May God bless you all.